Have you ever seen one of those movies where there's a married couple that can't have a child, so they're trying to adopt, and they're having trouble getting one, but then one falls in their lap, and the only problem is this child's already, a preteen or a tween, and they decide to adopt the kid, and the kid winds up to being a psychopath that, starts murdering their family? If I were casting somebody to play that part, you know who would be perfect? Luckily, though, she is a brilliant orator, prepared to be persuaded.
There is no planet B. There is no planet blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah, blah, blah. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero, blah, blah, blah. Climate neutral, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'm convinced.
Did you hear me? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want?
You to go away!
When do we want it?
3 years ago!
And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones, but there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live.
I'm not even a Christian, I'm agnostic, and that gave me the fucking willies.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Bright.
Then do and homelessness and all that. And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I only first heard about this story a week ago or so, and it turns out 6 months ago there was a FBI raid on a private bank vault where people had safety deposit boxes, and they seized 800 safety deposit boxes. Now, this company had been indicted for, conspiracy to launder money. They raided it, and the warrant was only to take these boxes, but not to actually crack them open unless they had probable cause or a warrant for a specific box. But they cracked them all open and decided to try to keep the fucking money. I mean, we're talking $86 million worth of cash and jewelry and gold and other valuables. Luckily, there was a federal judge that blocked the FBI from keeping a lot of this shit, and even though this company was indicted in February, there really hasn't been any movement on the case, and nobody has actually had to go to court or anything. The case has gone kind of dormant, and nobody wants to speak up as to why that is. There's two reasons that I want to bring this story up, and I think it's important. One is that this is what the FBI finds important. Not investigating claims of molestation by young girls on the U.S. gymnastics team. No. They're much too busy seizing people's safety deposit boxes and trying to keep their fucking money, claiming that they're drug dealers and shit. And the other reason is that I want to illustrate that keeping anything in a safety deposit box is stupid. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
And you're restricting your access. There's got to be a better, more secure way because, if the bank decides they don't want to let you in, they don't actually have to. The government can come in and apparently just seize your shit and claim that it's ill-gotten gains. If there's any kind of major crisis and you suddenly need to gain access to that box to get said valuables, guess what? If there's nobody at the bank to let you in, you're not getting it. So if you're considering getting one of these safety deposit boxes to store some extra cash or gold or silver or jewels or anything for just in case, you might want to think again. And if you have any valuables in one of these safety deposit boxes, you might want to consider other options. Well, this past week was the congressional softball game, and yeah, I heard them cover this the morning after on Good Morning America, and they said he was having chats with people in the dugout and yada 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 about getting his infrastructure bill passed, and they forgot to leave one interesting detail out, the fact that he got booed when he came out.
Joe, you suck!
It is a little surprising because it's DC, but it's not entirely surprising because for weeks now this sort of thing has been happening at football stadiums all across the country, people chanting, "Fuck Joe Biden."
Joe Biden!
And then on Saturday, when NBC was interviewing the winner of the NASCAR race, you could hear the crowd chanting the same thing.
Thank you to all of our partners. Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first two stages and just watch and learn. What did you learn that helped you there in those closing laps?
I guess it's possible that she actually thought the crowd was saying, "Let's go, Brandon," but I doubt it. It was pretty clear. It turns out he is uniting people. And yet another setback this week when Congress failed to pass his infrastructure deal for trillions of dollars. So they passed a stopgap measure to fund the government for a few more months while they try to get their people in line, because Manchin and Sinema decided that they like their jobs and they don't want to get voted out for passing this shit. It's amazing how many things are now considered to be infrastructure. But don't worry, there's nothing to see here. This is just a case of the government trying to help us all. They're licking their lips and saying, "Oh, come here. I just want to help you. Yeah, bend over. I'm about to help you so hard. I'm about to help the shit out of you." Of course, this is not exactly a new development. It's just getting harder and harder to ignore and deny. But never underestimate the power of denial. Maybe the new American flag should be a person with their head stuck in the ground and their thumbs stuck up their ass. And pretty soon it's probably going to get really hard to deny how much hurt has been caused by the past year and a half of the government helping us. There is a reckoning coming. We haven't even really started to feel the full effects of what shutting down the world economy and supply chains is going to do to us in the medium and long term. You can start to see signs of it with inflation in different industries and the backing up of ports. I mean, sometimes ports get blocked up, but look at the Port of Long Beach right now. I mean, there are a ton of ships sitting off the coast just waiting in line.
So how many of that? A ton, alright?
If you're planning on ordering some of that cheap overseas stuff for Christmas presents, you might want to be ordering that right now, or else you're not going to get it in time. And even then, you might not get it in time because there is a huge backlog. You can look at the marinetraffic.com and see all these ships backed up, but what does that look like in real life? It's a pretty incredible sight. Of course, they don't talk about this on the news very much. They try to paint a much more rosy picture that we're recovering and the economy is just chugging along fine and everything will be okay. When in reality, it's sputtering and about to stall out. We're in the middle of the biggest debt bubble the world has ever seen. And there is going to be a day of reckoning. You know, it may not come tomorrow, it may not come next month, but it's not too far away. There's only so much that you can pump a bubble up before something comes along to pop it. And when the last one popped about 13, 14 years ago, rather than fix the underlying institutional problems that caused that bubble, They just put a Band-Aid over the pinprick and just reinflated it bigger and bigger and bigger. It would have been too painful to actually deal with the problems that caused it, so they just decided to kick that can down the road. And now once it inevitably pops again, it's going to be a lot worse. People think that a recession like we had in the 2000s or back in the 70s is like the worst thing we could deal with. And there aren't all that many people alive now that can tell you what the Great Depression was like. But if you think that shit can't happen again, you're probably going to be in for a very rude awakening.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Human civilization is being marched off a big cliff. And it's not an accident and it's not inevitable. It's being done on purpose. So if you can't get pissed off about that, then you're worse than fucking useless. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. night.